All right. Hello, Steve Miller here, Florida divorce lawyer. Video stream, live stream on the YouTube. So, our goal today is to talk to you a little bit about Florida law, divorce, and all the things that go along with it. Let me tell you about myself. I've been a lawyer since 1985 in Florida and also Massachusetts. We do family law work throughout the state of Florida. Here's the thing: most people don't like lawyers. I'm not sure really why you would. Most of them are scoundrels. And if I was to define a scoundrel, it'd be probably somebody that charges way too much money to do a relatively simple job. And when I say relatively simple, for the experienced family law lawyer, any divorce is a relatively simple matter. It's technical work. It should be done by lawyers, but it's not something that you should have to pay an arm and a leg for. So that's what I mean by scoundrels. And as we go through some more of these live streams, we'll talk about lawyers and my experience with many lawyers and perhaps their experience with me throughout the years. But anyway, let's talk about Florida and Florida divorce and what has to happen. A majority of the people that we see are looking for an uncontested divorce. And what does that mean? Well, it generally means that you have reached agreement with your spouse on all the pertinent issues to your particular case. And when we talk about getting divorced in Florida, there's a couple of areas that we have to talk about. One, division of property and debt. Two, child issues if you have any. And three, potentially a claim for spousal support. But you know what? You guys all know that stuff. I mean, it's not rocket science. The fact of the matter is you need somebody to do the work and do it properly. In an uncontested divorce, we can get you divorced in about 30 days. And as long as each party signs all the necessary documents, that's 30 days from the date that we file the case at the courthouse. Nobody has to go to court in an uncontested case. When there are children involved, I don't suggest you exercise a no hearing option. And the reason is really, really simple, because it could be a problem for you. After you get divorced, it could be an issue, and you may not want to deal with that particular issue. And it goes something like this: if there's a problem after your divorce is finalized and you don't go to court, then I got to go back to court. So I got two choices on where to go to court: in the county where we filed the case. We'll talk about that in a minute. Or I can go back. I can transfer the case from the county where it was filed to the county where you now live, probably lived at the time of the divorce, which is the county where the case could have been filed as well. So we don't want to have to do that. It's a pain in the ass. Excuse my language. But it really, really is. So we don't want to exercise that option. So, one of the things that I'm going to wait for some questions and people to come on and answer some specific questions. But here's the thing, lawyers being lawyers, they all want to talk about getting divorced and how to get divorced. Look, it's not rocket science. You divide up your property and debt. You deal with child-related issues if you have any. You put the case to bed. You prepare all the documents. Everybody signs off on everything, and we get you finalized about 30 days after we file the case. If it's a contested case, it takes a little longer. It just depends how aggressive somebody wants to be and why they're being that aggressive. But the goal is still to get in and out of the process as quickly and cost effectively as possible. But here's the thing: lawyers being lawyers talk about everything having to do with divorce, everything with breaking up the family unit, everything about dividing up your property. The one thing I rarely see divorce lawyers talk about is staying married. Look, the fact of the matter is that divorce is at a very high rate, less than what it was a few years ago, but it's still an extraordinarily high rate. And divorce leads to other problems, because the breakdown of the family unit is a real problem in our country. This is not the 1950s where we got mother staying home, dad out at work, and kids, playing in a manicured yard with a white picket fence. Life doesn't work like that anymore. Not sure that it really did before, but that was the ideal situation. And in an ideal world, sure, mom should be home taking care of the kids, cooking, cleaning, making babies in no particular order. But that really is the best scenario because, as I tell many of my clients, some of them like this, some of them don't like it. Most people will agree, most right-thinking people will agree that the mother is the most important person in a child's life. And there's really no doubt about that. That's all things being equal. Good mother, good father, love the children, want to care for the children. If there's a reason that the other parent is perhaps less than a good parent, crack whore, drug addict, which I guess is the same thing as a crack whore, felon, doesn't have a place to live, bad background, hangs around with bad people. All of those things are things that tip the scales from being equal participants in a child's life to sort of tipping the scales in favor of doing something other than what has generally been done. So, all things being equal, yeah, mom is most important. So when we talk about time sharing, we have to look very, very carefully at the facts of each particular case to make a decision as to what is in the best interest of your children and what's the best way to proceed in these particular cases. Because the goal is, when there are children, if you can't agree on something, the goal is to do what's in the best interests of the children. One area of law that we deal with an awful lot is relocation. Relocation of one spouse with the minor children of the marriage. And relocation is really hard sometimes. Sometimes it's not so hard. But generally speaking, when I say generally, I'm always talking about the situation where you've got a good mother and you got a good father. If you have a bad mother or bad father for reasons that we previously talked about, that absolutely unequivocally will change the analysis in a relocation case. But all things being equal, relocation is difficult because if you have two parents that actually love the children, spend time with the children, then the question becomes, how are you going to maintain the relationship that the non-relocating parent has with the child who is proposed to relocate with the other parent? And the answer is it's very, very hard to establish that. So if you've got a mother and father, you got a child, and both spend time with the child, and the father is paying his child support and doing everything that he's supposed to do, and now mom wants to relocate from Florida to Oregon. She got a job with Nike and wants to move out there. How are you going to maintain that relationship? It's very difficult, for a father to be in Florida and for his child to be in Oregon, but it happens a lot. So you have to establish why that proposed relocation would be in the best interest of the children. And there's a whole host of things that the court looks at in making that determination. But the bottom line of all those things, and there could be 8 or 10 of them, and judges will sort of do a score sheet. Wife wins 1, husband wins 2, so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, it may be a 6-4, 5-5, 7-3 analysis by the court, which really is just a justification for the ultimate decision, which is going to be based upon what is in the best interest of the child. And that's always the goal in any relocation case, to do what's in the best interest of the child. So that's how relocation works, and those are the issues that we have to consider. Like any other case, if you can't agree on something, you got to file a petition, go to court, and let the judge figure it all out. The thing that I find about lawyers, in particular family law lawyers, is they just don't prepare for trials. I don't know what the heck they're teaching in law schools these days, but one thing I do know is that the quality of lawyering in the state of Florida has deteriorated to a very low level. And I'll give you examples. It's okay. I'm involved with a case in Broward County, Florida right now. which is a case that we've been litigating for about 2.5 years. It's not a divorce case. It's a paternity case. The parents were never married. There's one child between these parties. She's 7 years old. And from 2011, when the child was born, until 2015, even though the parents didn't reside together, they had a relationship, meaning that they worked together to deal with this particular child. And then all hell broke loose in 2015. As the saying goes, hell hath no fury like a woman's scorn. And that's absolutely true in this case, because what happened was in 2015, when my client had a child by another woman, that would make his 4th child by 4 different women, and he supports them all and loves them all and sees them all and does all the things that he's supposed to do. She didn't like the fact that he had this other child and that he wouldn't give up the relationship, so he kept on. And basically the mother terminated his ability to see this child on any regular basis. So we had to go to court. We filed a paternity action. We entered into a temporary agreement pending a final hearing, which gave him some time with the child. And then these lawyers got involved with the case about a year into it. New lawyers got involved with the case. She fired her first lawyer, hired her second lawyer, and then these lawyers took a whole different tack. They made up allegations of domestic violence. They made up allegations that the husband, or excuse me, the father of this child somehow abused this child. And we had to go to hearing after hearing. It was investigated by DCF. They didn't find any findings at all. And basically they determined that the mother had been making stuff up and coaching the child as to what to say. And the court at the hearing in the domestic violence action just dismissed it because it was a bunch of hooey. But that's what lawyers do. And so that's what bad lawyers do. That's what lawyers who just want to delay cases do. That's what lawyers who have no interest in getting from point A to point B, but just are looking to be a pain in the ass to the system and to the party on the other side. That's what they do. But so that's bad lawyering. But here's one of the reasons I say that lawyering is really, really deteriorated. In that particular case, the lawyers, and they're very nice people. They speak perfect Spanglish, which I suppose there's nothing wrong with that, except it doesn't really work out that well, because if you don't speak Spanglish, you don't really get the gist of some of what they're saying. But that's what I'm dealing with in this particular case. So the lawyer filed a motion to continue. Now, understand this is the second motion to continue that she filed. The second one was entitled a second verified emergency urgent must deal with this immediately motion to continue. And of course, there's no such animal as any of those things. But lawyers being lawyers in this day and age just make stuff up. And so when I read this motion, I was absolutely in hysterics. Not because of the factual inaccuracies in the motion, not because of the material misrepresentations to the court that were in the motion. I was really enamored with the writing. And I happened to be on the phone with one of my children at the time, and they asked me why I was laughing, and the answer was because I'm reading the funniest document that I've ever read, which I explained to them that if they or any one of their brothers and sisters had brought this paper home in the 5th grade with this type of writing, they would have probably been sitting in their room for a very long time learning how to speak proper English, the Queen's English, that is. So the quality of lawyering is just horrific. There are some very good lawyers out there, but some very bad lawyers out there as well. No names, because that would create a problem. So I don't want to do that. But you can go to our YouTube channel, Florida Divorce TV. Take a look at some of our videos. We have a lot of videos on there about court proceedings, about client interviews, and about how the process works. But back to the original premise, the original thought is that lawyers, divorce lawyers in particular, want to talk about all these family law issues. And again, this is not rocket science. There are issues, there are answers, they're all fact-driven, meaning I got to hear the facts of your case so I can give you a good opinion as to what's going on with your case and what we have to do to get your issues resolved. But how about staying married? What's the deal? Look, you're better off staying married than getting divorced. If there's any way to salvage your marriage, salvage your marriage. It's a good thing to do. It's good for everybody. It's good for the family. It's good for the country. It's good for everybody. And the fact of the matter is you got married for a reason, generally, hopefully because you love your spouse. And what's gone wrong, what's happened with the relationship to cause a problem to lead you to believe that you want to get divorced? The answer is I don't know, but sometimes people really need to think about it. Look, I've been married for 30 years, and you know, one of the things that you got to keep in mind, what's the secret? What's the glue that holds a marriage together? What is the glue? Look, here's the deal. At the beginning of most marriages, couples, husbands, wives, they're focused on one thing: sex. Just the bottom line. You know, you see somebody in a club, you see somebody in a movie, you see somebody walking down the street, you're physically attracted to them. And, you know, so the glue that holds you together is sex. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Have a lot of sex at the beginning. It's all healthy. It's all good. But what happens when the initial fun, the initial attraction wears off? For me, it's never worn off. I want to have sex with my wife all day, all week, all year. It's that simple. She'll tell you that as well. But sometimes it does. Sometimes it wears a little bit. So what do you do in the middle of the marriage? Look, it's like a book, you know. You got a beginning, a middle, and an end. So we've talked about the beginning, but what about the middle? What about the middle? What should be concerned with? The answer is the same. Should be concerned with having sex, you know, and how to keep it going. Look, before you got married is how am I going to get it? Sometimes it's not so easy, but you did a good job and got married. So obviously somebody wants to have sex with you. In the middle of the marriage, you got to work a little harder at it sometimes, you know. You got kids, time constraints, all those kind of things, but you got to work at it. You got to make sure that you keep having sex. Now, if you've been, you know, married for 30 years like I have, raised 3 kids, the question is how to keep up the energy and the stamina to, yes, you guessed it, to have more sex. Look, you have to. It's a part of life. It's intimate. It keeps you connected, no pun intended, with your spouse, but it really, really is an important thing. Most other issues, financial issues, you don't like the same TV shows, that's like insignificant stuff, you know? But sex is really the glue that keeps the whole thing together. So, look, we're going to end the stream today. We've had a nice chat. We'll do others. We'll keep you posted. This is our first one. Just wanted to get it out there, say hello. Steve Miller, FloridaDivorceMe.com. We work throughout the state of Florida, every single county, all 67 of them. We do contested divorces, uncontested divorces, for $499 without children, $849 with children, plus the court costs, of course. And we can get you divorced in 30 days from the day we file a case at the courthouse in an uncontested case. In a contested case, issues being what they are, it's hard to say what the time frame will be. I think the average time frame for us from beginning to end, and when I say end, it's either the end at mediation or, if necessary, the end at a final hearing, if we can't resolve the case at mediation. But that's usually about a 60 to 90-day process. Sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little shorter. Just depends on who the players are, who the judges are, and whether or not you do the work that I need you to do so that I can do the work on your behalf. Give me a call, FloridaDivorceMe.com, toll free